everybody. It's good to see all your beautiful faces again. I can't wait to hug a few of you. Not everybody, I don't want to hug Rich. Anyway, I am introducing David Fingerhut. If you guys will all say hello. He is originally from Schenectady and has been taking photographs for almost 50 years. Wow. He specializes in nature photography and enjoys photographing the American landscape. His photographs have been shown in 16 countries at exhibits sponsored by the Photographic Society of America and have been designated as a star exhibitor in both nature and color photography. Dave is a past president and director of the Colonial Camera Club outside Boston. He has won numerous awards in the Boston area and has judged photography competitions for 16 different camera clubs in New England. His photographs have appeared in books, calendars, and magazines. For 2 years, Dave has had winning entries in the Boston Globe Photo Contest. His photo entitled Royal Canadian Goose won first place from over 3,000 entries. Following that award, the photo was printed in a Time Life book, the National Enquirer, and Popular Photography, and was placed on exhibit at the Epcot Center. David, it sounds like you popped a few dream balloons along the life's path, and I'm 100% jealous of your life's work, and I'm not even done talking about you.
Thank you.
Since moving to Saratoga Springs 3 years ago, David still does his own matting and framing and sells his framed photographs at outdoor art events and local exhibits. So just putting it out there, David, are you on Facebook? Can we be friends on Facebook and kind of hang out together? I love adventure.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Sure. Yeah.
You're up.
Yeah, I've been. I guess the way you got my name was through Saratoga Arts. After we moved to Saratoga, I joined Saratoga Arts and, won some things there and sold some pictures off the walls there and had some local exhibits there. I also do an annual outdoor art fair that they have at Congress Park in Saratoga. So I guess somehow she got my name. The person who runs that, Rebecca, gave you my name, and that's how I ended up here. I was kind of surprised when I was called because I had no idea how you could have known me since I've, even though I'm from Schenectady, I haven't been there for 40 years. I mean, I haven't lived there for 40 years. So I'm glad to be here.
Okay, well, welcome, David. I'm going to share my screen now. And David, just so you are aware how we do this, we do all the images, we critique them, all the non-winning, and we do all the honorable mentions, and then we do 5 through first.
Okay.
Let's get going here. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Oops.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. All right. First category we're going to work on is general. There are 32 images, 5 places, and 5 honorable mentions. First up is Bell Brook Pond, Marguerite Hill.
Yeah, so when I first saw this, I noticed that little mermaid out from the side until I realized it was on I didn't know how it was floating there, and then I realized it was on a pole. It's a nice photo. I'm kind of wandering around looking for a center of interest here. So I like a nice red boat in the water or something like that. But it's a nice exposure. It just needs some kind of a center of interest added to it.
Okay, next up is Big Dog, Rich Schreibstein.
It's a nice street scene. It's a nice dog, too, a nice big dog. I see the sun here is right above. It's kind of a high contrast photo, and all the faces are kind of in shadow, so it's kind of hard to see expressions and things. It'd be nicer photo if it wasn't so high contrast, or more of a cloudy day. But it's a nice photo.
Okay, next up is Cuban Rooftop, Dan Steen.
This is an interesting place. I like the picture. I think there may be a better picture here, but maybe I was thinking cropping off the roof and the tree and using maybe the top left 2/3 of the picture. It might have been a little better composition without the tree and the roof there, which I don't really think adds that much to it.
Okay, next up is This Way, Nancy Funtner.
This is interesting. I was trying to figure out what this is, looking at it close up. I like the dark, you know, how dark it is. I like the exposure on it. And then I was thinking maybe it could have been cropped a little bit, like that kind of arrow thing on the left side in that one post might have been an interesting picture. I'm still trying to figure out what it is, but I like the exposure of it. It's kind of a mysterious picture.
Looks like gum.
Yeah, like a lot of gum.
All right. Next up is Maine, Nancy Funtner.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's a good exposure. It's a little. I like the exposure and I like the subject. The thing off to the left, I think, distracts it a little bit from the main subject. I think it probably could have been darkened or taken out, but it's an interesting subject.
Next up is Need Some Paint, Dan Steen.
I like the subject, and I like the fact that you've that those shutters. I like how it's perfectly parallel with the frame. You know, I don't know if you straightened it out in Photoshop or just that's the way you took the picture. Usually, you know, pointing up, you'd have it a little bit tilted, but I like how it's straightened out. I would imagine this picture would be really nice if it wasn't so sunny and the white wouldn't have been so washed out. I think it would have been nice deep colors if it wasn't a sunny day. So maybe it's someplace you'd want to go back to at evening or when it's not so bright.
Next up is Ilium Cafe, Rich Schreibstein.
Another street scene where there's a lot going on. Other than the woman in the front, I think there's a lot of distractions in it. So I think maybe if you had concentrated on just the woman in the front, it might have been a simpler picture. I'm sure you'd agree, the woman on the right with the blonde hair looking the other way doesn't really add much to it. But it's an interesting street scene. Makes you wonder what's going on here.
Next up is Leaves in a Puddle, Claudia Jakubowski.
I really like the colors in this. Very well highly saturated colors. All the leaves are sitting in water, and you can see the ripples around it, which ripples in the water, which I thought was interesting. But I think it's a nice composition. The only other thing you could have done maybe is gotten up closer and picked one item to be like the main center of interest of the picture.
Okay, next up is Sea, Sand, and Sky, Elena Kesey.
It's a nice, looks like a nice day, nice exposure here. I think that what you have here is a strip of land, a strip of water, and a strip of sky with a small person in the middle. I think the center of interest, meaning the person in the photo, I think if you had gotten closer and made him a little bigger, or maybe a lot bigger, and kept the reflection in the sand, the water, and the sky, it might have improved the picture.
Next up is Snowy Wonderland, Jenna Kaywood.
I like this picture. I like the fact that you could see detail in the sky and you can see grain or detail, you know, in the snow. But I don't think the trees in the middle add much to it. I think there might have been a better picture here if you use those two trees on the left plus the bridge, maybe moved over to the left and got those three items in. It kind of bothered me how the trees in the middle are exactly aligned with the, you can't see the end of the bridge because of the trees, those two trees. But I do like the overall the feel of this and the way that you can see detail in the snow and in the sky.
Okay, next up is Where Is Everyone? Claudia Jakubowski.
This is a nice photo because of the wet street scene. As you know, always in movies, they always wet the street down because you see all the reflections. This would also be a nice picture at night with the wet street because of all the reflections of lights. So it's nice. I mean, I'd like to see something in the foreground here other than just sidewalk, but the exposure is very good, and I like all the reflections in it.
Next up is Nature's Jewels, Elena Kesey.
It's an interesting subject. When I first looked at it, I thought that those, I guess, water droplets or something looked almost like mercury or something, the way it's kind of solid. It looked metallic a little bit. The only other, I like the background too, and I like the way that the plant stands out against the background. You could have used a little more depth of field here so you didn't see the, the blurred branches or whatever those are in the foreground there. But I like the exposure and I like the background.
Okay, next up is Dragonfly, Joe Catronio.
Good depth of field here. The dragonfly is almost all in focus. The eye, or I don't know if that's the eye, looks a little bit soft, but I think that's the way those are in dragonflies. Just the positioning of the camera. Maybe if it were in front, you could see the shape of the wings more than the way it is now. But I like how sharp this is throughout. Even the hairs on the legs.
Next up is Sanitarium Lighting, Kim Koza.
It took me a while to figure out what this was until I saw the title, and then I saw right away what it was. And I could see what the pictures of. I've never done anything like this before. Obviously, I've done a lot of, since I do a lot of matting and framing, I've done photos together in a single frame like this, but I've never done a single image in Photoshop like this. I think five of them was kind of a lot. Individually, they're all very interesting. But I thought with five, it kind of detracts and you kind of your eyes keep going back and forth looking at each one. But I like the idea and I do like the individual photos, all of them.
Next up is Tranquility, Paula Keefe.
So I've done a lot of this type of work, and especially in Vermont, and I've learned that it's got to be done on either a cloudy day or in the morning, like early morning or evening. Just too much contrast in the middle of the day, like this. But I like the way it's composed. I like having the church and the over to the left third of the picture the way it is. Unfortunately, it's the back of the church, and I think it would have been nice, unfortunately, if it was the front of the church instead of the back, but I like the composition of it.
Okay, next up is After the Storm, Paula Keefe.
So here I can see you were driving along, saw the rainbow and stopped, which is great. And the rainbow sure showed up well in this picture. You can see the sky's darker above the rainbow than as it is below the rainbow, which is usually the way it is. You can also see it was raining because I can see all the water coming off that car that's still on the highway there. It's a little bit, it's not that sharp, the photo. It's a little bit soft, but it's a great picture of the rainbow leading right up to the road. I like the way that came out.
Next up is Vase and Dried Flowers, Linda Tomasulo.
Well, I like this, the colors in the still life, very soft, soft coloring, soft and even. The composition, I think, could, I mean, I keep looking back and forth, and you know how they say, try to get three things in the photo. I think it would have been nice if the upper third, upper left quadrant wasn't empty, if you could kind of get something into there to balance things off. But I like the nice, even, soft coloring and exposure of it.
Next up is barn signs. Colleen Magi.
Well, this is a nice, perfectly exposed photo of a barn. I like it. It's nice lighting on it. One thing that I heard a lot back in Massachusetts at camera clubs, people would always mention if you take a picture of someone else's art, and the reason, and it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I'm not saying don't take a picture of someone else's art. What I'm saying is that how good the photo is depends on how well the person arranged the pictures on this barn. So somebody did a good job, very artistic, arranging these signs here. And your photo depends on how well they did, you know, with the colors and making things even. Other than that, I like the, you know, it's not very perfect lighting on it too.
Okay, next up is the barn. Sean Sullivan.
Looks like you're up on a hill here looking down. I like this. It's an interesting picture. The composition as well, it fills the frame perfectly. I like how much sky you included in it and how much grass. The time of day is not great for this scene. I think you'd have more saturated colors, and the colors would show more, you know, a little better if it wasn't so sunny out. If it was overcast or a morning or something like that, I think you'd have a softer or warmer looking photo than this, but I like the composition of it.
Next up is Beach on Isle of Lewis. Dow Smith.
I like these kind of photos. I like wide angles with, you know, vertical wide angles with something down in the foreground here and a nice scene up above. I think you could have even done it more extreme than this, gotten down low and gotten real close up of these rocks, but still kept the same top of the photo. I think it would have been even more dramatic, but I like this one. I like that little S curve that you have there of the water too.
Okay, next up is Choreo, Phil Olivo.
Well, I like the texture of this and I like the colors. It's kind of a, you know, mostly a photo of texture, and I like the way that it all came out. I guess the center of interest here is that sign over on the left, but which does go well with the picture. But I like the way the colors go together and the texture of it.
Okay, next up is Orkney Church, Dow Smith.
So this is another one like that one of the stream that I like. I like these vertical wide angle pictures, and you have a nice leading line here of the stone wall going up to the church. The grass there, and it's kind of a, you know, not very neat there. You have no control over it, but would have been nice if that, you know, if the main part of the picture there was a little bit more organized somehow. But it's a good exposure, and I like the clouds coming in on the top, and I like the leading line here.
Okay, honorable mentions. First up, Daisies, Joe Catronio.
Now, I didn't check, but I'm guessing it's the same photographer as the sanitarium lighting.
No.
No, okay. I like this one because I like the three things, and they're not all different. And, you know, I like the sepia, the original color, and the monochrome on the right. I looked at this for a long time because I really liked it. I like the way they all go well together, and it's not it's not as busy as the other one because you're not looking at really 5 different pictures. You're looking at one here and just seeing it 3 different ways.
Next honorable mention, the medicine cabinet, Sean Sullivan.
I like the kind of drab coloring of this. It's like an antique, well, obviously it's an antique medicine cabinet, but I like how you kept things kind of dark and old looking. And I like the coloring of it. I like how all the medicine labels are all kind of the same color, yellowish and dull green. I think overall, I think it's really nice.
Next up is Edda's World, Neil Shapiro.
Well, this picture really has a nice feeling to it. I mean, you know, I like, kind of makes you wonder where she's going with, looks like a goat going with her. And it just has a nice feeling to it. I like the exposure of the grass and all the detail you see in it. It's a nice photo. And I like the red, you know, spot of red in there too that you've got in the using the rule of thirds. Looks good.
Okay, next is Route 146 Ford, Phil Olivo.
So I like the way this one is divided into the bottom part. I just think the composition is really good with the 3 sections here, and then it's pulled together by the Ford sign across it and the little panel up at the top. So I just like the way it's composed with these even sections, all with colors that go very well together. It's very nice photo, very sharp too. You can see a lot of detail in it.
Okay, next honorable mention is Vintage Trailer, Kim Koza.
Yeah, I like the starkness of this and the fact that the sky is not all one color. I like the positioning of the trailer and how it's kind of a just dreary looking trailer, and the coloring of it and the way it all blends together. It's very nice.
Okay, our winners. 5th place, Matin Shipyard, Jenna Kaywood.
Yeah, I like this scene a lot. Compared to that one with, well, I don't know if there was another one where I mentioned that you could see a lot of detail in the sky and you can see a lot of detail in the snow. Here, I didn't really see that, and I didn't really think the white at the top or bottom really added much to it. And I was wondering if, even though this is a really nice picture, and I like how you can see the snow in it against the building, I was wondering if you went off to the left and kind of made it more dramatic with the same front of the building, if it might have been filled the frame better rather than so much empty space. And by the way, this is my favorite conditions to take pictures in, I think.
In 4th place, Portland Head, Doug Mitchell.
So I used to live about an hour away from here, so I have lots of photos of Portland Head Light. This one, I like that it kind of looked like a oil painting, I guess. The water, the texture in the water, the sky looks unreal. I don't know if that was put there, but I don't think it was. Maybe it was enhanced with, you know, but I really like the way it looks like an oil painting. Too bad the light wasn't on in the lighthouse a little bit, but I really like this.
Next, 3rd place, Blue Bench Shadow, Linda Tomasulo.
What I like best about this was the composition. That shadow of the back of the bench is really the main focus here, and it's perfectly centered in the frame. And then you've kept part of the frame here so you can see what it's a shadow of. But I just like the way things are laid out here. And I think it that nice blue, saturated blue looks really nice against the white snow. So I just really like the composition of this.
Second place, Blue Paladin, Doug Mitchell.
Well, when I first saw this, the first thing I thought of was a series I watched recently called Behind Her Eyes on Netflix. And it seems to be the same, not the same person, but it just reminded me of the face that it shows in the ad for that series. I think it's a great composition. The flowers and what was done with the face, I really liked. It's very calming looking. The face, the head, and I think it all goes well together with the flowers that she's holding and the way her outfit is done. I think everything fits well together here, and I also like the black background of it.
In the first place, The Land That Time Forgot, Neil Shapiro.
What I like here is that you've got something, it's the whole image is just fills the frame with a lot of interesting composition. You've got stuff in the foreground here. You've got the little rainbow there. It looks like it's a very long exposure, maybe at night, I don't know. It looks like it's could be a minute exposure or something of the waterfall and of the water going through here. But I just like all the detail in the rocks, and I like the fact that the sky has this interest in the sky too. So it's just the overall composition of the way the water flows down, goes off to the left, and all the detail that you can see in it. Really like it.
Okay, congratulations to our winners. Great images. And our next category is monochrome. We have 30 images, 5 places, and 5 honorable mentions. And first up is Park Bench Minstrel, Neil Shapiro.
Somehow I thought this was a horizontal picture when I saw it, when I reviewed them before, but maybe not. So I like how much detail you have in in his top half here, in his face and in his beard and in the instrument he's playing. Somehow he doesn't seem very enthusiastic about playing there, but I think if you had zoomed in and gotten his top half, his head, his face, so you can see all the detail in his face and his beard, I think it would have been a better picture. I don't think that the thing on the bench there adds anything to it. So I think a lot of this could have been cropped out and just concentrated on him from the shirt up.
Okay, next up is Looking Up, Nancy Funtner.
It's an interesting location. You can see all the reflections of the buildings across the street from it. I like how you can see all the detail there, and it's just an interesting building. And I like the exposure of it. Everything looks good on it, but I just keep wandering around looking for some kind of center of interest. It's more of like a texture picture, which is good, but it is a good exposure.
Okay, next up is Chair, Nancy Funtner.
This one I thought was also interesting. Very good exposure. I was trying to see figure out what it's a picture of. I assume it's a picture of that chair and table. And I'm just thinking, I wish you had, made it more clear somehow what, either include all the table or none of the table, just the chair, something like that. But it's an interesting picture. The fact that the whole rail station or whatever this is completely empty. And it's a nice exposure too.
Next up is Spoons and Honey, Jenna Kaywood.
This looks like it was a difficult picture to take. It took, before I saw I was looking at this before I saw the title, and I couldn't really figure out what it was. I like the black background in this case because it makes the subject show up more. I just wish that it was a little bit, that the spoons were a little bit clearer, so you could see a little bit more what was going on here rather than just the shapes.
Next up is Clouds at the Bay, Elena Kesey.
Well, this is a very nice day. You could see very clearly here the mountains and the water, and it's really nice having those clouds there. The top quarter of the picture is completely black though, and I don't really think that adds anything to it. But I do like the way the top 2/3 of it is arranged, and it's very good exposure.
Next up, Frozen Leaves, Kim Koza.
This one was one of the few I took into Photoshop and rotated it all different ways to try to see if it would help having the leaves point in a different direction. I like all the detail you have. The back, you know, it would have been nice to have a more natural background since they're leaves, but I do like all the detail you can see in the ice on this, and the arrangement too.
Next up is Goldfinch in Snow, Linda Tomasulo.
This one, I like the fact that you caught the snow, that you could see the snow. Perfect pose for the bird. You know, if it was the front, you wouldn't see the detail, but so you've got the interesting part of the finch and also the head as it turned around. So that was perfect. This one, I don't think it added much making it monochrome. I think it might have been better if it were, I would have liked to see it in color in this case, rather than just a monochrome, you know, using this for the monochrome category. But I do like how you caught the bird.
Next up is Washington Armory Terrace, Rich Reifstein.
Actually, this was another one I brought into Photoshop, and I did a horizontal flip on it to have the line going from the lower left up to the right. And I did like it better that way. I like what this is. I like the subject here. I like the way it's done. The left third of the photo, which is part of the photo, I believe, is all black. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. I think you see what I mean there. But I like the subject. I like the way you did this.
Like that?
No, I flipped it, not rotated. I liked it with the white coming up from the left up to the upper right. But it's interesting the way it is.
Okay. Next up is Crosses in the Snow, Claudia Jakubowski.
This is a great composition. I like taking pictures like this too. It's kind of overexposed though. The snow is, you don't see any detail in the snow. But I do like the composition. You could have had a little more depth of field here and kept some of the stones more focused towards the back. But I like what you were trying to do here.
Next up is Early Winter Morning, Marguerite Hill.
Well, I like all the ice on the tree here. You caught that well. The crow, I assume it's a crow, is kind of dead center here. I think it might have been better to zoom in a little bit, put the crow in the lower third of the picture and have that branch, you know, leave that branch in, but try to zoom in a little bit and not, you know, better placement of the crow, I think would have been better. And as you did that, if you zoomed in, you would have had even more detail on some of the branches, which I think might have helped this.
Next up is Cubic Egg, Rich Schreibstein.
Yeah, so I like the shapes here and all the different textures here. There's a lot of different textures, and it's all very, very interesting and very well exposed. And composition is good too. I have no idea what I'm looking at, but I just like all the shapes and the way they all fit together.
Next up is Sumac in the Fog, Claudia Jakubowski.
This is another interesting photo. I like the foggy background of this. That came out really nice. But it's a photo where, again, you're looking for a center of interest, and maybe it could have been a couple of those sumacs, a couple of the branches there, or something up close, I guess, to give a center of interest, and then keep in that hazy background, because I really like that.
Next up is Halter, Colleen Magai.
This is an interesting subject, but I think that the background kind of detracts from it. It's, you know, I know you probably don't have much options here and what your background's going to be. You probably couldn't move this, but so I like the exposure. I like the contrast of it, but it's just busy throughout the photo, and I think what you wanted to concentrate on is that halter. And I think if you could have somehow either thrown the background out of focus or done something to bring your eye right to the halter, it would have helped it.
Next up is Writing Crops, Colleen Magai.
Yeah, this is, I think, the same thing, where the background, there's so much in the background here that it kind of draws your eye away from the crops. And if you look over on the crops on the left down at the bottom, you can barely tell where the crop ends in the background, you know, which is the crop and what's the background. So I think what you could have done here was, again, zoom in and get a couple of them rather than both of these racks. Maybe just some of the crops, maybe just one rack, but something to draw your eye to the subject rather than so much on the background.
Next up is At the Opera, Larry Hill.
Well, I've been here. It's a nice photo of the Opera House.
Been there too.
Yeah, I like the shadows underneath, and it fills the frame. Too bad the sky is kind of plain, doesn't really add anything to it, but there's not much you can do about that. It's a lot of it does well with monochrome here, because you've got everything from white to black underneath there, and I think it's well composed.
Next up is Winding Stream, Sean Sullivan.
It looks like an interesting spot. This is, again, nicely exposed picture. I think the tree in the middle kind of divides the picture in half, and there probably was a better picture to take here than this. I don't know whether it's the wall and the tree, or just the wall, or just the stream. But although it's well composed, I think you could have zeroed in on something here rather than the overall scene.
Next up is Edinburgh Parliament Grounds, Dow Smith.
This one I thought was well exposed too. I kind of like the fact that he's not looking up. He's kind of busy. Interesting steps there. I was wondering what the picture would look like if you eliminated the top and bottom and just had filled the frame with mostly the steps and the person there. I like where you have them positioned, and I like the exposure of it. Yeah, like that. Just the, you know, the middle third or whatever, middle 2/3 of the picture, I think might have helped it.
Next up is For Whom the Bell Tolls, Sean Sullivan.
Nice shadow here. I like the subject. It's another one where the background kind of detracts from it a little bit, but I like the texture of the background. Good composition. Filled the frame well with the shadow and with the chime. So I think the exposure is very good.
Next up is Summer Storm in Mount Equinox, Dow Smith.
I really like the sky here. It came out very well. When I first saw this, I thought those were lights in the foreground rather than what they are. But I do like the way it's laid out here. I wish that the road had gone on a little longer. Maybe if you moved over to the right, you could have had the road winding through those mountains a little bit. I think that would have made it really interesting. But I really like the sky here the most.
Okay, next up is Seattle Landmark, Phil Olivo.
Well, it's very sharp and well-exposed picture of the tower. I wasn't really sure what I'm looking at here. I wasn't sure what is going on with the gray triangle on the right or the black in the upper left. It might be being framed between different buildings, but you can't really tell. So I was a little bothered by what I was looking at here, other than the tower. But it is a good exposure of the tower.
Okay. Honorable mentions. First up, Windswept, Kim Koza.
As I said, this is the kind of weather I like to take pictures in, and I like what you've got here. I just think that, again, the top half of the picture doesn't really add anything to it. I think what I might have done here was, if you can, walk over to the left, get the frame, get the tree filling up a lot of the picture, and then show that expanse of grass coming off of it across the picture, rather than just the horizontal strip.
Okay, next honorable mention is Caught, Linda Tomasulo.
Well, I like the way the seed, I like the brightness of the white of the seed and how sharp it is. I also like how you controlled the depth of field here and left the plant kind of out of focus so that the seed would stand out. I thought you did a good job there. I also like the monochrome coloring of it a lot. I think you did a good job there. So it's really nice.
Next up, honorable mention, Elegant Illusion, Elena Kesey.
So this is the photo I probably stared at the longest, trying to decide if it was completely done in Photoshop or some cardboard trick. I made no conclusion about it, but I do like it, mostly because it held my interest for so long, trying to figure out how whether it's a Photoshop picture or what it is. So I really liked it.
Next up is Tinsmith, Dan Steen.
What caught me here is the concentration of the subject here on what he was doing. And I think there's a lot of interesting things in the background. I like the fact that it's slightly out of focus, so it doesn't detract from the main subject. You probably could have moved that cup out of the way. I think that would have been a little better. But I do like the exposure of it and the concentration of the subject. It's good photo.
Last honorable mention is Black Velvet, Doug Mitchell.
I like the pose here, and I like the exposure. I like the way that her hand is up on her face. I think the whole pose is very good. The black I can see detail in. I like that. I also like the background. It goes well with her. I'm not sure where her other leg is, but I assume it's behind her front leg. Overall, I think it's a nice, very nice pose and a difficult exposure, which was handled very well.
Okay, and our winners in 5th place, The Last Dance, Phil Olivo.
So like that one with the white seed, I like how sharp the subject is here and how you did a great job with depth of field. It stands out against the background. You threw the background out of focus, yet these flowers are perfectly focused. Also, the monochrome works very well with plants like this that are kind of dying. The flowers probably weren't very bright, so I think throwing it to monochrome makes it really a nice effect.
Okay. The 4th place, Central Railroad of New Jersey Terminal, Doug Mitchell.
I like the effect of this picture, what you did here with making it look like an antique. I think it works out very well. It looks like an antique photo. I like all the detail you can see all the way back. I don't know whether that's the sun coming through a crack or a light up there, but I like that a lot too. It just looked like it was just a very interesting picture, I thought. And I like that one person walking towards the camera over there on the left. If he wasn't there, it wouldn't, I think he adds a lot to it.
Okay, 3rd place, Frenchman's Bay Recursion, Neil Shapiro.
Well, I guess I just like the softness of this and all the curves to it. The way the light, the S curves here and the way that the dew or the clouds are coming up over the water and over the trees. All the way back, it's just a very interesting picture. And I like the foreground here with the close-up of where the land juts out there, and it just leads your eye along all the way back to the end of the picture. So I really liked it.
2nd place, Magical Moment, Joe Catronio.
Well, this was, I thought, a very dramatic picture, very dramatic sky here with the rays of light coming down. Well composed. I like the fact that I like the way it's cropped. You don't have too much of the black showing at the bottom. The tree is kind of a center of interest there. I don't mind it right in the middle. Kind of looks like the whole thing is surrounding the tree, or that the tree is really the main subject and all this is what's occurring around the tree. But it's mostly the sky here that I really liked, and the way you caught the rays of light, and the exposure is very good.
In 1st place, A Wilderness Retreat, Jenna Kaywood.
Well, so this one, I just like the detail in the snow that you got here, that the snow's not washed out. It's exposed very well in the foreground, I mean, and on the sides of the tree, you can see grain and detail in the snow. You caught the snow, like very heavy snow up above coming down into the trees. I also don't mind the fact that it's dead center and framed by that fence, which you arrange it so that the tree goes up through the opening in the fence. So I really like that composition that you did there. So yeah, I just like this composition and exposure. I liked everything about it.
Well, congratulations to our winners. Thank you, David, for your for judging and your insights. They were very good. Anybody got any questions for David?
David, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate that.